The economic survey has been presented in Parliament today. Let's try and understand what it means as the union budget is set to be presented tomorrow. And to discuss this, joining me is Giri Prakash, my colleague at the Federal and an expert in economic affairs. Hello, Giri.
Hello, hi.
First up, let's talk about employment. The survey says that the annual unemployment, the all India annual unemployment rate has declined since the COVID-19 pandemic. And they're saying that this has been accompanied by a rise in labor force participation rate and also the worker to population ratio. But recently, though, the annual survey of unincorporated sector enterprises report for 2021 to 2023 pointed out a decline in employment in the informal sector. Of course, pandemic is a factor, but has employment suddenly seen a boost in the last 1 year? What is the confusion about this whole unemployment? Because this was also an election topic uh, in the lead up to the election. So, what to make of this?
Um, let us look at there is one particular chart which actually talks about unemployment rate. If you look at the overall unemployment rate, it has actually sharply increased to around 9.2% as of June 2024, compared with around 7% in May 2024. All right. Now, where are we getting this data from? So let us look at it. This is from Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, right? So um, we should also look at the rural one as well as the urban one. The unemployment rate in both urban India and rural has actually increased. Rural employment rate has it went up to around 9.3% in June from 6.3% in May, whereas urban unemployment rate climbed from 8.6% to 8.9%. Okay. Now there are a few other things that the economic survey comes out with. There is a particular chart or a graph which correlates unemployment rate with Manrega scheme in the fiscal year 2020, 22-23. The unemployment rate, the way it shows is that it shows the number of unemployed individuals per thousand in various states or regions, and it provides an insight into the level of joblessness within the population. Whereas the MNREGA scheme, this indicates the amount of funds disbursed under the MNREGA scheme, which is a social, as we all know, is a social security measure. What the findings from what you can gather from the chart is that there is little correlation between the unemployment rate and the MNREGA scheme or the funds released. States with the highest rural unemployment rates did not necessarily receive the most MNREGA funds, whereas it should actually have been. Right? Now, interestingly, there are three states in India which have the highest unemployment rate according to the economic survey. Which are these? Kerala, Haryana, and Rajasthan. And now let us look at what is Kerala. Kerala is around 80 per thousand individuals, and Haryana is around again 80 per thousand individuals. Himachal Pradesh is around 35 per thousand individuals. Uttar Pradesh is around 45. Madhya Pradesh is around 40. Assam is around 50. Karnataka is around 30. All right. You can actually see that the states which have lesser unemployment rate have received more Manrega funds.
Moving on to another key factor, which is inflation. The survey report says that, assuming a normal monsoon and no further external or policy shocks, the RBI expects headline inflation to be 4.5% in fiscal year 25 and 4.1% in fiscal year 26. In fiscal year 23, retail inflation averaged at 6.7%. It dropped down to 5.4 in fiscal year 24. But on the other hand, there is food inflation, which was 7.5%, in the previous fiscal year. What to make of this, though? The overall inflation projected to, go down. But on the other hand, there is food inflation, which is on the higher side.
So we must understand something about the economic survey. Uh, it's a report card of its performance by the government. So obviously there will be biases there, right? Uh, According to them, the gradual moderation of retail inflation in financial year 24, that is 23-24, indicates that the monetary policies and the administrative measures implemented by the government and the Reserve Bank of India have been effective. The increase in the policy repo rate and efforts to absorb excess liquidity has apparently played a crucial role in aligning inflation towards the target. Now, if you look at the food inflation, which is a major component of inflation, it has been the primary driver of overall inflation, influenced by extreme weather conditions, lower reservoir flows, and damaged crops. Okay, this highlights, what does it mean? It means that there is food prices are very vulnerable to these two, three factors. And it also emphasizes the importance of ensuring stable agriculture production. Now, let us look at regional variation, and this is very important. The economic survey has actually flagged this, and it's very important to understand this. What it says is that there has been a pronounced interstate variations in inflation, with rural areas experiencing higher inflation due to a higher weightage of food items. Okay, so what the economic survey is saying and what it is actually concluding is that there is a need for region-specific inflation management strategies, not overall, right? The entire country-wise. Only so the states with higher inflation, overall inflation, they have exhibited a wider rural to urban inflation gap, indicating what does it indicate? It indicates inflationary pressure across different regions. So there could be higher inflation in one state, there could be lower inflation in another state. And what it also says is that, look at state-wise rather than the overall inflation, which actually which doesn't give a clearer picture of inflation rate. This is what the economic survey says, and I do hope that there will be some kind of tweaking this the way you measure inflation.
Right. And one more point is about China.
Hmm.
So, increased foreign direct investment inflows from China can help increase India's global supply chain participation and push exports. This is what the economic survey says. But on the other hand, the Modi government is known for drumming up, building India as a parallel economy. Uh, what do we make of this? Two contrasting perspectives about China.
So there are two parts to it. One is the net FDI inflow, and this is the gross one. The net FDI inflow has actually reduced to around $26.5 billion in FY24 compared with $42 billion in FY23. And the gross FDI inflow, they have sort of more or less remained stable. They are more or less same. Okay, which means so let us define this net and gross and let us understand what it is. See, the gross FDI flow remaining stable, which means that there is sustained investor interest despite increased repatriation and disinvestment. Okay, and what is net FDI inflow? It means that due to higher repatriation of investments and attractive exits driven by a buoyant stock market and higher interest rates in developed countries, this is something that has happened. Now, how you do a bit of a deep dive, and then you realize both the industry and services sectors have experienced a decline in FDI to GDP ratio. The share of industry FDI in GDP fell from 0.62% in financial year 20 to 0.39% in financial year 24, while the share of services sector FDI decreased from 0.87% to 0.69% during the same period. What does it actually show? that the physical FDI, which means that automobiles, pharmaceuticals, construction, they have been higher than the digital FDI, which is computer services, telecommunications, etc. However, and this is something that we need to take note of. The recent years have seen an increase in digital FDI due to the rise of sectors like software and hardware, consultancy services, and telecommunication. Please understand, manufacturing sector is the backbone of the economy, and actually more FDI investment should flow into that. Now, talking about the China plus one strategy, it talks about how the multinational companies are diversifying their supply chains to reduce dependence on China. And obviously, this is post-COVID fallout and US-China tensions and rising costs in China. And the economic survey re-emphasizes that India has the potential to benefit from this strategy by integrating into China's supply chain or attracting FDI from China. The latter, obviously, is more promising for boosting exports to the US and Europe, as it aligns with the experiences of East Asian economies that have successfully attracted Chinese investments. Now, this needs a policy change. This needs a rethink, and this needs a completely new, mindset. And while the economic survey flags this issue, it is something that the government will have to address sooner than later, because this is one huge chunk of FDI inflow that will come into India, and we can actually capture a larger market and then shift the narrative of China being the factory of the world to India being factory of the world.